It's 3:47 a.m. You wake up before your alarm, and you already know why. Before your eyes even fully adjust to the dark, your hand is reaching for the phone on your nightstand. The screen glows blue against the ceiling as your thumb instinctively finds the banking app. You watch the little loading wheel spin for a fraction of a second. Then, you see the number. The number is exactly what you thought it would be. Why? Because you already checked it at 11:42 p.m. before you went to sleep. You checked it at 9:15 p.m. You checked it during your lunch break. You haven't spent a single dollar, but you just needed to make absolutely sure that the dollars hadn't moved on their own. Somewhere out there in your exact same city, maybe even working your exact same job, is someone who hasn't opened their banking app in 3 weeks. They couldn't tell you their checking account balance within $1,000, and they sleep through the night like it's a civil right. The only thing separating your Tuesday night from theirs? A number in a savings account. And today, we're walking up that ladder. We are taking that number from zero all the way past $3 million, following the exact psychological journey of what your life looks like at every single level. Let's begin. Level 1, $0 or negative, the survival tier. Welcome to Level 1, $0. You're standing in a Dollar Tree. The fluorescent lights are buzzing, giving everyone that slightly exhausted, pale look. You're holding 2 bottles of generic ibuprofen. Doing out loud price per ounce math, you figure out that 2.4 ounces for $1.25 is objectively a better deal than 4 ounces for $3.50. That 40-cent difference matters. It matters because you've already paced ass the ramen aisle 3 times trying to decide if you can afford both body wash and dinner this week. This is $0. This is where roughly 10% of American households sit permanently, and where another 62% visit constantly as they cycle through the paycheck-to-paycheck grind. The Federal Reserve has a very blunt statistic. Nearly 40% of Americans cannot cover a $400 emergency, and over 10% can't cover it by any means, not savings, not a credit card, not a loan from family, nothing. So, what happens when your 2008 Toyota Camry needs new brakes that cost $480 and you only have $63 to your name until Friday? At this tier, you don't have choices, you have damage control. You can take out a predatory payday loan with $120 in fees. You can skip a shift at work and lose $110 in wages. Or you can just keep driving until that worn-out brake pad destroys the rotor and becomes a $900 problem. You just pick the cheapest disaster on the menu. That's not a metaphor. That's just the Tuesday. And here's the cruelest part. Princeton scientists ran a study showing that the cognitive load of financial scarcity, the sheer brain power it takes to survive being broke, drops your effective IQ by about 13 points while you're in it. The system doesn't just make you poor, it actively makes your brain worse at figuring a way out. At Level 1, you aren't just broke. You are one unlucky afternoon away from total catastrophe. Level 2. $1,000, the fragile milestone. Fast forward. You've clawed your way to Level 2, $1,000. You hit $1,000 in savings for the first time in your adult life. You're so proud you actually take a screenshot of your bank app. You might even text it to your mom. Financial gurus like Dave Ramsey call this baby step 1 and tell you to print it out and tape it to your fridge. And you should. Psychologically, this is massive. It's the first time your bank balance has a comma in it. But you're going to learn very quickly what $1,000 is not. It is not 1 month of rent in any major American city. It is not a new transmission. It is not an ER copay. 2 weeks after you tape that screenshot to the fridge, your water heater explodes. The plumber quotes you $1,100. Just like that, you are back to zero, plus $100 on a credit card. You look at that screenshot on your fridge and suddenly it looks incredibly sarcastic. Even Dave Ramsey admits that $1,000 was never actually meant to be enough money. It's a behavior modification tool wearing a financial tool's costume. It exists purely to stop you from losing your emotional momentum when life inevitably breaks something. But here is the most important thing that changed at level 2. You checked your bank app at 3 a.m. this week. Once. Not 3 times. Once. The muscle memory of panic is loosening. You haven't escaped the scarcity tier yet, but you've realized that escaping it is a skill, not a genetic trait. And you are learning the skill. Level 3. $10,000. Buying sleep. Level 3. $10,000. You've spent years paying down debt, picking up extra shifts, and eating the same sad $7 meal prep lunch. But you finally have a genuine, fully funded emergency fund. Let me tell you what $10,000 feels like physically in your body. Your phone rings on a Thursday afternoon. It's your mechanic. Your car's transmission is completely shot. The repair is going to be $3,200. In every previous year of your life, that phone call would have triggered a pit in your stomach, cold sweats, and a full mental spiral. This time, you just sign to the phone and say, "Okay, go ahead and fix it. I'll pick it up on Saturday."
And then, you go back to your day. You don't check your bank app at 3 a.m. anymore. You barely check it at all. That is what $10,000 buys you. It doesn't buy you financial freedom. It buys you sleep. You have roughly 3 months of essential living expenses banked. If you got laid off tomorrow, you wouldn't have to panic apply to the first terrible warehouse job you see on Indeed. You have runway. But here is the danger of level 3. Getting here was the hardest thing you've ever done. Every one of those $10,000 came from saying no. No to dinners, no to vacations, no to keeping up with your friends. Now, the quiet stretch begins. This is where most people quit. Not loudly, just slowly. The Friday night dinners creep back in. The new car payment happens. They get a raise and it immediately disappears into lifestyle inflation. They get stuck at $10,000 for the next 5 years and they have no idea why. Level 4, $35,000. Couch guilt and the trap of average. If you don't quit, you reach level 4, $35,000. You finally buy a nice couch that didn't come from Facebook Marketplace. But the moment it's delivered, you feel sick to your stomach. You feel actual guilt. You almost return it the next day because that survival instinct, the one forged back at the Dollar Tree in your level 1 era, is whispering in your ear. You shouldn't have spent that money. You keep the couch, but you keep the whisper too. Because that whisper is the only reason you have $35,000 instead of $3,500. Let's call it couch guilt. At $35,000 liquid, plus a starter 401k, you have leverage. If your boss calls you into the conference room and the conversation goes south, your palms don't sweat. You have 8 months of living expenses saved up. You could literally stand up and walk out. You don't because you like the paycheck. But the simple fact that you have the option completely changes how you carry yourself. But beware, level 4 is the sneakiest trap in personal finance. At this tier, you are statistically average or above average for a young adult. But every Instagram post, every TikTok, every car commercial you see is calibrated for the top 5% of wealth. So you look around and you feel behind, even though you are mathematically ahead. And when people feel behind, they do dumb things. They take out a HELOC to renovate a kitchen that was fine. They lease a truck they don't need. Couch guilt built your wealth. Instagram envy will dismantle it. Every wealthy person I've ever studied has some permanent version of that couch guilt installed in their brain. Keep it. Level 5, $100,000. The Munger threshold. Level 5, $100,000. Your account crosses into 6 figures. You tell absolutely nobody. This is what financial nerds call the Munger threshold. Charlie Munger, Warren Buffett's legendary business partner, was once asked for his best piece of wealth-building advice. His answer is famous. He said, The first $100,000 is a bitch, but you gotta do it. I don't care what you have to do. If it means walking everywhere and not eating anything that wasn't purchased with a coupon, find a way to get your hands on $100,000. After that, you can ease off the gas a little bit. Why is this line so famous? Because at $100,000, the math of your life physically changes. If you save $1,000 a month and earn a standard 7% return, it takes almost 7 years to hit your first $100,000. During that time, the money you personally sweated for makes up about 80% of the account. The interest only did 20% of the work. You carry the weight, but the next $100,000 takes way less time, and the one after that takes even less. By the time you hit around $170,000, something magical happens. Your annual investment returns start beating your annual contributions. From that day forward, your money is officially working harder than you are. It never gets tired. It never clocks out. The game has flipped. Level 6, $250,000. Coast Fire. Here is a fact that should feel illegal. If you hit $250,000 invested by your late 30s or early 40s and you stop contributing entirely, if you never add another single dollar for the rest of your career, at a 7% return, that account will grow to roughly $1.3 million by the time you're 65. You don't have to do anything. You just have to let it sit there.
This is a concept called Coast Fire. It means the burden of saving for retirement is completely lifted off your shoulders. Every dollar in your paycheck from this day forward can be used to travel, to live, to work fewer hours, or to finally take that massive career risk you've been terrified of. This is true security. But contrast this with a couple who makes $280,000 a year, drives 2 leased luxury SUVs, has $65,000 in credit card debt, and a grand total of $2,000 in savings. If they lose their jobs, they have enough runway to survive for 4 days. Income will not save you. There is no salary high enough to outrun undisciplined behavior. The people who turned $250,000 into $500,000 are the ones who looked at the flashy, high-consumption lifestyle and quietly said, no thanks. Level 7, $500,000. The hedonic treadmill. Level 7, $500,000. You are now in the top 25% of U.S. households. At this tier, you stop checking your portfolio on your phone. Why? Because the daily fluctuations of the stock market are now larger than your monthly salary. A random 3% drop in the market means you lose $15,000 on paper in a Tuesday afternoon. A 3% rally means you make $15,000 while eating lunch. Your net worth is no longer entirely dictated by your budgeting behavior. It's dictated by the global market. In a strong year, a $500,000 portfolio can produce $100,000 in gains just by existing. Your money has a better paying job than most human beings. But this is also where the hedonic treadmill spins the fastest. As your wealth grows, your peer group updates. You start hanging out with people who take nicer vacations and buy nicer wine. Your spending wants desperately to grow to match your new balance. The trick at $500,000 is exactly the same as the trick at $1,000. Remember the Dollar Tree. Keep your lifestyle anchored. Level 8, $1 million. The mythical millionaire. Level 8, $1 million. The mythical millionaire. You wake up on a Tuesday morning, you walk into your kitchen, you pour yourself a cup of coffee, and absolutely nothing feels different. The word millionaire carries a century of cultural baggage. We picture yachts, linen suits, and casinos in Monte Carlo. The reality, you are standing in your kitchen wearing a Target fleece looking at a Vanguard statement. Today, $1 million doesn't buy a yacht. Using the standard 4% safe withdrawal rate, $1 million buys you about $40,000 a year in passive income. That's enough to cover the bills for a paid-off house in Ohio and keep your Costco membership active. It is incredibly comfortable, but it is not MTV Cribs. Let me tell you the only millionaire story that actually matters.
Ronald Reed was a gas station attendant and a janitor in Vermont. He drove a beat-up Toyota Yaris and held his winter coat together with a safety pin. People at his local diner used to pay for his coffee because they felt sorry for him. When he died at age 92, they opened his safe deposit box. Ronald Reed had $8 million in dividend-paying blue-chip stocks. He left millions to his local library and hospital. The patrons at the diner pitied him, but Ronald Reed was what a millionaire actually looks like. If you picture anything else, it's just because an advertiser sold you that picture.
Level 9, $3 million and beyond. At 4% withdrawal, $3 million pays you $120,000 a year, adjusted for inflation, forever. That is a senior engineer's salary paid to you by your money for the rest of your life while you do whatever you want with your time. This is generational wealth. This is the promised land of the FIRE movement, financial independence, retire early. But I need you to hear this one truth clearly, because it is the entire point of this journey. At every single tier we just walked through, from standing in the Dollar Tree at 0 to Coast Fire at $250K to sitting on millions, the amount of internal human stress people report is almost identical. The subject of the stress changes, but the cortisol in your veins doesn't. At $0 you ask, can I make rent? At $35,000 you ask, am I falling behind my friends? At $3,000 you ask, will a market crash wipe me out? Is $3 million even enough in this economy? It is the exact same nervous system, just wearing more expensive clothes. Below a certain threshold, let's call it $100,000, money genuinely, objectively relieves human suffering. It buys food, shelter, and medical care. But above that line, money mostly just relieves comparison, and comparison is a bottomless well. The author Joseph Heller, who wrote Catch-22, was once at a billionaire's party in the Hamptons. A friend leaned over and pointed out that the billionaire host had made more money in a single day of trading than Heller had made in his entire life from writing a classic novel. Heller just shrugged and smiled. He said, yes, but I have something he will never have. I have enough. Enough is the only number that matters. And here is the secret. Your enough is probably way smaller than the internet told you it was. It probably doesn't require a private jet or a second home. It probably looks like a paid-off mortgage, a boring index fund, and a quiet Tuesday afternoon where nobody is allowed to bother you. So tomorrow morning, when you wake up and look at your bank app, wherever you happen to be on this ladder, don't ask yourself, how do I get to the next tier? Ask yourself, what is the smallest thing I can do this week to build my peace of mind right where I am? Start there. The math will do the rest.